but every city has one too. So I'd like to see that, because I don't want to see what happened today happen again in this county. It's uncalled for. It didn't have to happen. We in government weren't prepared to react, is what, in my opinion, what really happened.
But if we had been paying attention to capital, if we had been paying attention to financial instruments, and not worried about plans to plan to plan, what you're saying here right now is just an indictment of some of the institutions that are being vaunted in this document right here. If we had paid attention to that, that's 2 houses on the hill in Anderson Valley, and they have no problem getting financed. Okay. But they haven't had committees upon committees and staff time upon staff time devoted to try to come up to an act of some kind of will. It's kind of a Nietzschean notion of will actually accomplishes things that absolutely destroys rational economic thought in this county. And I've seen it for 35 years. We plan and we plan, we keep people employed, true. If you're talking about these efforts as being employment agencies, we'll have the same kind of success as poverty agencies have and have had in eliminating poverty. It'll keep a lot of poverty workers employed over a 50-year period. But I'll tell you, I do not like what I've heard here today. I don't like to see this county, when we have a simple example in front of us, all the energy being put out there at the last minute and going at it with a crisis mentality, when in fact everybody knew that this was coming. Our friends at the banks, our friends in real estate, our friends in economic development across the board knew what was coming. And where was the mechanisms? Where were the mechanisms in place, the institutions that address real economic matters with real economic thought? There's no economics in what we have here today. These are organizational configurations. And fine, organizations could do all kinds of things, provided they have clear goals and explicit mechanisms in place to be ready for precisely the kind of thing you're talking about, Johnny. If this happened in my district, I'd probably be even angrier than you. But the reality is here is that if it were to happen in Anderson Valley, where we can have a $9 million vineyard put up within a year, and it doesn't have anything to do with any of these committees we put together, and it probably may be of some value to Mendocino County in terms of the tax base and in terms of the jobs created, but it has nothing to do, the irony of that is, it has nothing to do with the economic and fiscal thinking, the financial mechanisms, the meetings, the committees, the organizations. This is grasping at straws. And unless we pay attention to the economics of county finance, when we start talking about the fiscalization of political planning and so forth in Mendocino County, we're going to have another set of nice meetings. Most of the things I've heard here today, I heard 30 years ago here. Walked out, said, well, might go somewhere, good luck folks, but you know, wishing don't make it so. And that's where we're on. This is kind of a wish world kind of thinking, and I really find that this is really, put it in very simple terms, really a waste of time. It's a waste of time of this board, it's a waste of my time certainly. And I really feel here that for all the nice thoughts and so forth, we should not be talking about job maintenance, but we should be talking about real economic planning. If we could not raise $3 million in Mendocino County through all of the different groups that are right here, all these people that sit on boards and so forth, and we could not raise $3 million for this project, if that was really truly the issue, then we're pretty sad shape, because I had a vineyard in Boonville and came to the right people, or had an idea for a vineyard in Boonville, came to the right people. $3 million would be there, and it would be there within hours, because it would make sense it was something that can be done, would be clearly understood as a business, would have people who are competent dealing with it. I'm sorry to say tyranny, but I'm finding here, at the end of my 10th year here, is we've been through it. We've been through it, we've been through it, and we are not getting any better at what we do. And I'd say here, the way Keith Olbermann does at the end of the day, pitch it at the camera and say, good night.
So you want me to-
Please.
Okay. I guess what I'd say is that might be useful to just pitch it at the camera, because from a staff standpoint, we don't necessarily like going through and presenting the same things over and over again. And the purpose of today was to talk about what is the role of the county. And if the role, if all the county can add to the discussion is planning, responding to federal grants, state grants, etc., and that's not what's going to actually make any difference, then maybe we ought to save our time and our money and not participate in that. If that's not going to add value to the economic development effort, I absolutely agree with you. And I think that it's very frustrating for staff to participate in something and to rally around. And I actually had an interesting conversation over the weekend where an individual in the private sector said to me, referring to the Branston Mill, that people in the private sector